they knew that they were on to something, and venture capitalists were saying, okay, well, for every dollar they're putting in, they're getting $3 back on a lifetime value. They knew that this was a company that not only was healthy, but it was a company that could scale, which all of those companies have. This number started bleeding into service-based industries.
Hello everyone, welcome to Building a Better CAC by Commexis, a podcast dedicated to connecting the space between your revenue goals and sales and marketing initiatives. I'm Matthew McGroarty, the social media content producer here at Commexis.
I'm Len Ward, the managing partner at Commexis.
So today we're continuing our look into the 7 questions of the 3-to-1 in 18 process. As a refresher again, these are questions that we ask our would-be clients first before we can truly begin helping them see marketing differently. Last episode, we discussed the second question, which focuses on the customer acquisition cost, basically how much you are spending to acquire a customer. And today we're going to be talking about questions 3 and 4, which are, what is the lifetime value of my customer? And number 4, what is my target lifetime value ratio of my customer? So first, Len, what is the lifetime value of a customer and why is it important?
The lifetime value of a customer is the actual value a customer is going to have to your company over the course of a set specific time frame. So if an individual is, if they're a customer with you and they're spending $1,000 a month over the course of, say, 2 years, the lifetime value of that customer is going to be $24,000. $1,000 a month, 12 months times 2 is $24,000. So basically, it's the lifetime value of a customer is how much money a customer is going to spend with you over the length of XYZ time.
So do clients historically know the lifetime value of their customer?
No, that kind of falls right directly in line with the customer acquisition cost. Historically, customers will know the lifetime value of their customer a little bit more than the customer acquisition cost. But I think we maybe said 98% of people don't know their CAC. I would say about 50 to 60% of customers do not know the lifetime value of their customer. And it's interesting because the lifetime value of the customer can change, because if you're a personal injury attorney, it's basically going to be a one-off fee. You're going to make your money, move on. If you're selling a product or service that is maybe one-off, like the lifetime value of your customer pretty much is, I'm charging you $7,000 to do a probate, a probate case, and that's pretty much it. Well, that's kind of your lifetime value of your customer. When you go and start looking at something different, lifetime value of a customer where they're historically, paying you over and over, like on a monthly basis for whatever it may be, service you provide, those are the customers that tend to know the lifetime value of their customer a little better than the one-off people. So, yeah.
Okay, I think that makes sense. So now we're going to shift into the lifetime value ratio, which sounds very similar to the lifetime value of a customer. But Len, can you tell me what the lifetime value ratio is, and again, why it is important?
Okay, so the lifetime value ratio is when you divide your customer acquisition cost divided by the lifetime value of the customer. So we're gonna stick in with the same number we have on the podcast. So our revenue goal is $1 million, and each unit sold is $100,000. And let's just say your customer acquisition cost is $30,000, we'll say, maybe $33,000, and the lifetime value of that customer is $100,000. You simply divide $33,000 by $100,000, and you're going to arrive at a lifetime value ratio, which is that famous 3-to-1. So it's almost, for every dollar you're putting in, you're getting $3 back on the lifetime value of the customer. It's essential to understand, because customers and clients will always ask this question on the lifetime value ratio. They will say, well, the lifetime value ratio of what? And we come back and say, the lifetime value of your customer. And if they say, well, how does that factor all in? Your job as a business owner or an accountant for a business is to understand what the lifetime value of a customer is. If your lifetime value ratio, or if your customer acquisition cost is higher than what your lifetime value of your customer is, then you obviously have operating expense issues. Your overhead's too much. You have too many employees, and so forth.
So can you talk about the lifetime value ratio, and in particular why our process is called the 3-to-1 in 18 process?
So the 3-to-1 is the baseline number that actually came out of Silicon Valley. So when there was companies out there that rounds of investing were happening, and there was numbers that venture capitalists were looking for, namely Uber, namely Netflix, Salesforce at its way early stage, it was something where they knew that they were on to something, and venture capitalists were saying, okay, well, for every dollar they're putting in, they're getting $3 back on a lifetime value. They knew that this was a company that not only was healthy, but it was a company that could scale, which all of those companies have. This number started bleeding into service-based industries. There was a lot of chatter out of the West Coast where law firms are starting to use this number. And now this number's kind of grown to the point where a lot of companies say, as a baseline, we should be at a 3-to-1 lifetime value ratio. This number destroys the conversation of people who are looking at, well, my rankings aren't there, or I'm not getting traffic to my website, although that's important, or why don't I have enough impressions? If you constantly are making sure that no matter what, the bottom number is 3-to-1, that's the metric that should matter most to you as a CEO, as a president, as a CFO, not necessarily the CMO. Now, look, if you're operating at a 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6, that's great. There's nothing wrong with a company. As a matter of fact, I think Netflix currently operates at 7-to-1. I think Salesforce might be at 5-to-1, and there's some great companies operating at 10-to-1. The problem is, though, is that if you're operating at 10-to-1 or 9-to-1, and let's say business isn't as good as it used to be, or you're not selling as much as you used to, per se, at that point you might need to start investing a little bit more because your competitors are comfortable operating at a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 while you're sitting up there at 8-to-1. If you're coming back down and you're sitting at, say, a -1 or a 1-to-1, that simply means, and your company's healthy, that means that you're trying to grow, and these are you're in more of a, I'm trying to acquire more consumers, not revenue per se, because I plan on selling these consumers down the road. 18. The number 18 was basically, we came in because that's a course of 18 months. It doesn't mean that it would take 18 months to get to 3-to-1, but our process was 18 months gives us 6 months where we can go into an investment stage where we're trying to figure out the right CAC components, the right metrics, what your competitors are doing, where we believe people are actually looking for your product, and that we're going to operate at what we're going to call an investment stage number, 1-to-1, -1, maybe it's 2-to-1. And as we kind of look at what's happening, we gather all the data, we start moving into, say, the second 6 months, and that's where you're 12 months. And we think we fine-tune everything. Everything is operating properly. Ultimately, our goal is in 18 months or less, we now have your company operating at a 3-to-1 lifetime value ratio on the investment you have, with that target number of $1 million in mind. And that's where 3-to-1 and 18 came in.
Excellent. And we're going to be talking in the next episode about marketing and marketing investments and things like that. So if you're interested in hearing about that and learning about that, tune in the next episode later this week, next week, depending on when this one goes up, and you'll be able to learn all about that. That's all for today's episode of Building a Better CAC. Check us out on Commexis.com, YouTube, and anywhere you can get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter @Commexis. Thanks for listening.